So currently, I am watching a show called Succession, and it is really, really good. In Succession, you have a dad, and then you have his four adult children. And essentially, the show is about succeeding the dad if and when he steps down from the CEO position. My twin sister wanted to talk about family dynamics with me with this show, and it makes complete sense why. I'm not going to give any spoilers or anything like that, but it honestly reminded me of my relationship with my dad, my relationship with my mom, as well as relationships between my siblings, because, I have a twin sister and then I have two bigger brothers. And so it's just so interesting. There are certain traits within all of the characters that I love, and there are certain traits within characters that I absolutely hate. So being able to see all of these different characters kind of show out in different ways, for the good and for the absolute worst, I honestly could not look away. And it's not even like it's a car accident, like I can't look away type of thing. It's more of like, this is really how people are. And not to even say I'm better than, but it's very much like I'm seeing a lot of the things I hear about or I have heard about from other people, but I'm like seeing it illustrated in such a magnificent way on screen. That's what good writing gets you. And that is why I believe media is so important to spiritual growth. I believe that media can help with spiritual growth because, one, it acts as a mirror. Two, with that being a mirror, you're learning how they function with the self-flaws or, self-beliefs that they might have. And then you're also seeing how you might also share those same self-beliefs, and you might also share those same flaws, whether it be flaws in thinking, flaws regarding yourself and how you relate to others. It's so amazing when you have a show with such great writing and you can create characters that really, really resonate with people. So with Succession, there's this character, and I saw all of the ways that they interacted with their family and the people around them. And I'm just like, how dare you? Like, I'm so mad at you right now. But then there would be moments of like goodness and love and light. That love and that light, no matter how small, is still like real. Like, it's legitimate. And like, I could see it. And I'm like, just the way it was written, I'm like, in some cases, I was not sure if I believed them or if it was just like an act or something. But sometimes there would be really like lovely moments with this character, and I'm like, what is going on here? It's the way they're written is just so dynamic because we ourselves are dynamic. We're not just static. It really challenged me in how I think about others. If the other is myself just in disguise, that means if they're not all good and all bad, that means that I myself am not all good and I'm not all bad. And my personal journey with spirituality is learning that I'm not all bad. I'm not all bad. That's been like such a big thing for me. And typically what you find in the spiritual community, sometimes, at least what I've seen, is you have like, okay, like I'm in my spiritual journey, like I'm learning about how good and divine and like just how lovely I am. And then you have the dark night of the soul. We're dealing and we're talking about our shadow and, all the things that we have to deal with and limiting beliefs about ourselves. But we're all able to harm others intentionally as well as unintentionally. It's easy to make these preconceptions about people and just put them in a box and just say, okay, you're good, you're bad. Even with all of this, I guess, evil and like badness that I've attributed to this one character, even with a tumultuous relationship, like they are still loved. This show showed me how to look at the shades of gray, but not only to look at the shades of gray, but to know that there are shades of gray. You can see how this person is waking up every day. You see what goes on throughout the day. You see them go to work. You see them, drop their coffee. You see them get in an argument with their coworker. You see their boss stealing an idea. These are all the things that they were dealing with. What are all the things that I'm dealing with? When have I been like that character? How do I feel about that? When you were able to recognize things within yourself and say, That leads to spiritual growth. And in the shows that you're watching, you're really able to see how other people are dealing with their problems. And you're able to see how they solve their problems, why they think they have to solve their problem that way. And then if the solution is effective or if it's not effective. And I would say how that solution affects themselves and the other people around them. I think about characters that I've seen on shows, the way they show up and the way they present. It can be linked directly to like their life experiences. One of the characters, they often feel they have to punch down. If you've seen the show, you've been able to see that happens with pretty much a lot of people. But this particular character, you notice that something will happen. And it's happened in his childhood. But you can see that he's not done the work to disconnect how he was treated and his self-worth and his value. And so they're still linked. They are locked in. If you say anything about how he performs, it goes straight back to his self-worth and his ego. And because they're so tied, if you're saying one thing, you're attacking this. And so what you'll see happens to that person is, okay, I just got punched, so I'm going to punch somebody else. The way they act and the way they present themselves and how they talk and how they treat people, any other person would just be like, oh, they're such a bitch. They're just being a terrible boss. Like, that's just how it is. But like, their inner child, like their little wounded child is showing up. They showed up in that exact moment. If only when that started to happen, or even like the first time that ever happened when they were a child, if only I could have just been there and said, oh, I'm so sorry that happened to you. What they said was not fair. Like, it wasn't fair, and I know it hurts. Even as an adult, like, I just want to go up to them and just say, hey, like, I know it hurts. Like, I know, but we can't treat people that way because we know that it doesn't feel good. So, like, don't do it to other people. When you hold up a mirror, sometimes you're just not able to see yourself, one, in a way that might be as accurate. And sometimes you might see yourself in a way that you don't like, you know? It's great to want to feel good about yourself. You want to feel good about yourself. But self-esteem does not exist in a vacuum. So that is why humans, people, we need people around us. We need people to bounce off of. We need people to rely on, and we need people to help us feel good about who we are as people. That comes from friends, that comes from family, and then it can also come from media. One thing I want to bring up before I end the video is that I majored in music, and I am classically trained as a singer. And when we talked about the vocal cords, you know, our larynx, our voice box, and how we sing. This is in our vocal pedagogy class, which is essentially how to sing, kind of, and how to teach singing. The sound that comes out of your larynx, there's a bone there. There's a hyoid bone or something like that was called. You have cartilage. You have muscle. So like, you have all of these structures that are in your larynx. But then as you're talking and as you're singing, that sound, it travels out and it's going through bone. So it's going through your skull, it's going through your bone, it's going through muscle, and it kind of like, the sound is like traveling and it's getting out, but it's also like bumping into things along the way, kind of thing. As you age, some of those things can change. The more you sing, the more you get better at it. You know, that musculature develops and it strengthens. The sound goes through so many different things. What happens when you're singing, that sound is going out, but then the sound is also going up to your ears. So oftentimes with singers, they need voice teachers. And so voice teachers are able to have a more objective experience of the sound because they're just hearing it come straight to their ears. They're not having the sound go through all of this musculature and going through their mouth and the roof of their mouth and all that other stuff. That's why sometimes it's helpful to have a voice teacher, because you can be singing and it's like, man, I just can't get this note, or I can't do something. And you need a voice teacher to kind of help you out with that. And part of that is because, obviously they're trained and they've done it before, but also they can hear things that you yourself might not be able to hear unless you record it. With that being said, media can function like that voice teacher. And with our voice, it kind of acts like beliefs. It functions in the same way as beliefs. So you have beliefs that are kind of made up with just kind of more of like your personality. There's your culture, there's your environment, and those things function as kind of like your musculature with your singing voice. You have your bone, you have your cartilage, you have muscle, culture, life experience, personality. Those are kind of one and the same. And so, like I said before, as you age, those things change. The more experiences that you go through. A singer might get nodules and then they can't sing high notes or something. You live a life and you deal with, hey, like I lost my job and like I can't, buy groceries like I used to anymore. So now when I do have a new job, I buy my groceries in a different way. We're constantly changing, but we're also constantly and simultaneously staying the same. All of these things can be reinforced. Our self-beliefs, they can be reinforced by the things outside of us and the things that are within us. What we get from our media, we get joy, we get love, we get laughter, we get reflection, we get that commiseration, that togetherness, that unity, that media, that visibility, allowing us to look into other people, other humans, other people's lives. That's meaningful. That's important. And the way that we're able to give those bad characters grace and compassion and say like, man, BoJack really had a really, really messed up childhood. I can see why he treats the people the way he does. I can see why he treats himself the way he does. I can see why he has certain habits. When I can have compassion for other people, I can have compassion for myself. And when I have compassion for myself, that allows me to have compassion for other people.